Hi everybody, Nick here again at Dogwood Acres Farm. Today we're going to do a DIY on taking our newly seeded tomato plants, which we started in coconut coir, and putting them into, transplanted into a larger container so that we can get ready to put them into the garden in the next couple of weeks coming up this spring. This video is basically just to show you how to take them and place them into a larger container. I haven't actually specifically got into how to grow them with the coconut coir. I do go into it a little bit, however that's in another video I have. Please remember, if you enjoy these videos, to subscribe below the comments and also press like if you enjoy them. Anyway, this is transplanting or moving the tomatoes into a larger container. Let's get started. Okay everybody, so we're going to be planting two different varieties of tomatoes here. I've got some Roma tomatoes, and then I've got some beefsteak tomatoes as well. I'm still waiting for my hot peppers to come up. They haven't quite come up yet, and the watermelon haven't decided to sprout yet either. So obviously the things you're going to need for this are going to be your plants. You're going to need some water. I have in this bucket to water them once they're planted, and then some sort of I'm using cups here, coffee cups, used coffee cups, but you can use any type of container that you wish, store purchased ones, plastic ones, even maybe a peat cup that you can plant directly into the garden if you wanted to. And then also our potting mix right over here. So our potting mix, if you have a look, you can see is already done up. It's been pre-moistened, and it's just a good all-round mix of soils and peat and nutrients, which are good for growing the starter plants and getting them to grow properly. Now, there is a process to get this potting mix ready, but I'll describe that in another video and show you how to do it. So right now we're going to go ahead and just get started. I'm going to take my first plant over here. It's a beefsteak tomato. You can see here that they've got quite a bit of stem on them. If you look at the stem right here, it's quite long up to the first set of leaves that came out. And these leaves are basically only to provide the plant with some food and sunlight, and to produce their own food while they're developing their permanent leaves. So once you've got 2 or 3 of the permanent leaves out, you can actually transplant them. I'm a little bit late getting these in, and you can also see now that there's some roots starting there, and I probably should have got them into the soil before that happened. However, it is what it is, as they say. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some of the potting mix into the bottom of this cup, and I'm going to put it down so that it's about roughly halfway down from the top of the cup, and I'm just going to simply put this plant right in there. And with tomatoes, there's one of the plants that you can do this with. Not all plants you can. We're going to fill it up right to the bottom of these 2 leaves and bury the stem a little bit. That'll actually produce a stronger stem, and the vines will be much stronger when they grow out, and it won't want to fall over as easily. It will actually grow roots out from the side of the plant stem as well. So we're just going to go ahead now and fill that in a little bit. Make it nice and compact. And then we're going to go ahead and fill in a little bit more now. That should be good. You can see there. Let's clean off the table a little bit. Some of this other dirt. We'll use it for another plant. Now what we also want to do is add a little bit of water now. Even though the soil is a little bit moist, the plant could still use a little bit of extra water when it's first transplanted, just to get the roots to hold. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that kind of fill up to the top, let it soak in. And then we're going to go ahead and do that one more time. There should be plenty of water now for the plant. After we've got it transplanted like this, we're going to go and take it back over under the lights and where the other plants are, and I will show you that now and let it continue to grow for a couple more weeks before we transplant it into the garden. Okay, excuse the weird light. That's actually our grow lights that are growing there. You can see now that it's under the light, and I've got some other plants here as well. We've got some basil growing, we've got some zucchini growing, and then of course the other tomatoes that I've already transplanted earlier. Also under the light. Not the best picture. If I zoom out a little bit, you'll be able to see the type of light that it is. It's just a light that hangs and produces red-blue light Over here we have some other tomatoes. These are the mortgage lifter tomatoes, and they'll be ready to go in shortly. Now I'm going to transplant, also have some flowers growing here. I'm going to transplant these probably in about another 2 to 3 weeks. Normally you want to put in for tomatoes about 2 weeks after your last frost date, which around here is usually about April 26th. Unfortunately, we've had a very long, drawn-out winter, and the plants are kind of anxious to get into the ground, as you'd say, but we haven't been able to do that, so we're going to have to hold off an extra couple of weeks, just because I believe it's actually supposed to have another frost tomorrow night, and we're already at May 4th. So by now, we should be able to get them in the ground by the end of this week normally, but I'm going to hold off for another couple of weeks just to make sure that we are 2 weeks past our last frost. So that was the beefsteak tomato. The Roma tomatoes are a little bit smaller. I've got one of the bigger ones here. I'm just going to see if I've got, here's one. I've got one that's a dual plant. So when I plant them into the coconut coir that I'm using, you can see here we've got actually 2 plants. So you're going to want to pull one of the plants, which doesn't look like it's doing as well. This one here seems to be it. So I'm just going to go ahead and gently just pry that other plant out. Now I have some roots there. What I can actually do with this, most times people will just say that you want to just throw that away, but if I bring it in close here, you can see that it's got some roots on it. That plant will actually grow. So if I go ahead and just put this back in the container, if I take this plant and I add some dirt into my cup, and what I'm going to do here, and a little bit more dirt, just to kind of bring it to the top. Now what I can do here is, I'm just going to simply push my finger in to make a hole, and I'm going to take this by one of the leaves, and I'm just going to insert that down into the hole to about the stem, and just push the dirt around it. Just like that. Now you could go and buy your starter, your seedlings at any of the local nurseries or local stores that sell them, and that's perfectly fine. I just started experimenting a while ago, about 3 years ago now, with growing my own seedlings, and for 1 pack of seeds, which cost me about $2, I can produce as many as, however many seeds are in the packet, 50, 60 plants, and normally I don't plant 2, I only plant 1 in the coconut coir. They usually take very, very well. You don't have to worry about having, one not make it or another make it, and because the coconut coir is also so cheap, it really doesn't matter. So again, we're going to add some water to this, and make sure that this is when we add the water, we want to make sure that we get it all the way around. Not too aggressive, we let it soak in. A little bit more water again. And we'll soak in. And there you can see, this was the one that would normally be torn out and discarded. But because it had some roots to it, it will actually survive and become its own plant. Even though it's kind of small right now, within about a month and a half or so, it'll be flourishing just like the rest of them. Okay, so I've been mentioning coconut coir a little bit. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. That's what they are. They come in a box. This one's 50 jumbo pellets. Peat-free, 100% peat-free. You can also get peat pellets as well, which I've used before. They work really well too. I just found that the coconut ones were more available to me. So they actually come, they look like this. They're very, very small, and you can see here that they aren't very, very large at all. What we would do is put this into the water and let it sit for 15-20 minutes, and then what happens is it actually expands out and becomes like this. And there's a hole in the top. You place your seed in there, and you just kind of squeeze it around to put the seed in, and you keep it watered, and it will eventually sprout, and then you have plants. It's a very easy way of doing it, and to transplant into the cups that I'm using or into a container, You just simply, as I showed you earlier in the video, place it in with the dirt, and then that gets planted right into the garden. Now, one of the things I like about these particular products are the paper does break down very, very easily. I found with the peat pellets, they work excellent. However, they are surrounded almost like by a mesh. Before you put them into the dirt, you have to pull the mesh off to basically dispose of it, because it doesn't seem to break down. It's been probably 3 or 4 years since I've used them. I still find them in my growing areas whenever I kind of turn the dirt or put in some plants. So I'm fishing them out as they come out, but I would rather not have that issue at all. And that's another reason I like this particular product. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll have some more DIYs for you coming up shortly.